To kind of go off what I was saying before, you want to treat things in pieces. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So if you go into any of your image generator, I use Google Flow. And so if you go new project for here, um, I have with Google Flow, I have like Nano Banana, so I can do a couple generations. I'm just going to put mine to vertical, so it's normal 19 by 16 or 9 by 16, and then I'm going to just do probably just two at a time right now. But the prompt that I'm going to use here is just a skull with a plain black background. And then, I usually have what I wanna do here is I wanna tell the image that I want the jaw and I want the top cranium of the skull to be separated so that in the actual image itself, there's a clear gap between the 2 sides or the 2, objects. And so, um, and there is a gap between the, cranium and the excuse my spelling, and the jaw. Let's see what it comes up with. So this one's pretty quick. That's why I wouldn't have you guys sitting here if it took a minute for these generations to go through. But yeah, so hopefully we'll one shot it. And this is a pretty easy thing for it to understand. The reason why I always do a black background is so that way when we put it inside of the 3D generator gets much less confused when it doesn't have too many things to work with. So right here, this is a pretty good example. This is another good one right here. We can also go, let's do here and just do illustration. And so essentially, anytime you do and you can do this with anything. You could do this with a skull, you could do this with, I did this with a set of tools, I did this with pipes. You can get the image to kinda create and just make sure there's gaps and separations in between, um, the pieces that you wanna separate. So hopefully we got it here. And if not, I can just go ahead because I did get it. This is perfect right here. Exactly. So if you kept messing with it, you would get it exactly the way you want it. But just for, example's sake and going into the tutorial so that it works perfectly, something like this is exactly what you would want because there's that separation between the jaw and the cranium. And that's what's going to give us a lot more control when we get into and download it from Meshy. So if you go ahead and download this, um, everyone has their thing. You save it in your area because we're going to put this inside of Meshy. I'm going to go ahead and put this in just my desktop for now. Okay, we'll save that. And then we're going to go over and hop into Meshy. And obviously, anybody who has questions, we can open it. I'm sure probably Rob, you want to do it at the end. But yeah, totally free to ask questions about any of these processes. I might be going a little bit fast. I feel like I'm going slow, but let me know if I'm going too much, and I'll slow down. But right here, just to kind of show where we are, if you're in Meshy, you want to go into your workspace. So if you're in the home screen, go over here, click on workspace. Stuff is always changing, but you always know that this button's here. And then right here, if you're on the model, which is the image to model generator, click on that. Brings this whole thing up. I was making another video. She was not so happy. But let's go here. Go to our desktop where I had it saved before. And then we're going to find where it's illustrated. There it is. Boom. Okay. Open that one up. And then we're just gonna go ahead and generate just with everything that it has here. I'm gonna put it CC by 4.0. And so, yeah, as this is generating, I'll kind of go through what I plan on doing here. After this is generated, there's usually about every time Meshy makes a generation, it goes way overboard. And that's because it's always going to give you the highest quality generation that it can do, which is fantastic. If you look at a lot of these generations here, they're amazing. But if you look at the poly count, It's in sometimes the millions, and that's just not really feasible for augmented reality. It's, especially web-based augmented reality like we're trying to do with, illust, because illust is web-based, and that's one of the beauties of it. All you need is a QR code. You don't need a whole big app or, something that's a lot of friction point for a lot of other augmented reality platforms, but because it's so simple and you could do a QR code to get people straight to the experience, you do have to think about optimization because not all phones are created equally, and on top of that, if you want yours, experience to be the best it could be, you gotta think about that optimization, and so, right here, I'll kinda prove it to you if we click on this skull right here has 461,000 faces. That, we could do some Draco compression and a couple of things, but we're just this is not gonna work the best in augmented reality, but it's not the biggest deal because one of the biggest things that we can do that's built into Meshy is we can do this remesh tool. So if you go to the remesh tool and you go to adaptive, it's probably gonna be your best bet, and you go even to medium to low, check out what this does. I'm gonna press confirm, we'll do a medium, we'll do one low. And sometimes I even like to do one in fixed mode, and I'll do like 10K, and I'll do a 30K, and I'll just compare. Now, I don't usually want to get around 30K. I try to stay away from that because, like I said, I'm always trying to optimize. Um, but you'd be surprised just how much you're going to cut down in space just by it being um, like that much less polys. It's huge. It does so much for the entire experience. So let's see, these are already done, and if we go to this one, for instance, we got 30,000 faces. It's not as good, but it's not bad either, and especially when you're in an augmented reality space and people are playing with it and they see the surrounding environment, no one's seeing how smooth the cranium is. People are experiencing what the skull is, in my opinion, and so if we go over here to this one, it's a 10,000 one where it's kind of more degraded. I still think that kinda looks badass. It kinda has this low poly skull look. So if you're into that style and you're fine with that, you're good, It's this is fine, totally fine to work with, totally valid. See, this one is all the way down to 5,000, and I still like it. I still like this a lot. If I had any adjustments, all I would have to do is go and sculpt this little tooth and push him in just a little bit. And we would have that little bit of that extra detail in the teeth right there. But even then, this is pretty good for most situations. And we get all the benefits of having only 5,000 faces. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. So right around this point, we can go here and just texture it, and I'm gonna go ahead and go with the 5,000 just to prove the point and to get it running as smooth as possible. We'll go ahead and texture it now with the 5K, and it's going ahead and just to go over these settings real quick. Remove lighting. I usually tend to put that on because if you look at the lighting of this image, you can kind of tell that there's a little bit of brightness over here on the top part. If we don't remove the lighting, it'll maintain that brightness and it kind of takes away the realness because if you do have any real time reflections or any of that kind of stuff, it's going to take away from that and you'll always have this like lighter glow there. So I always remove the lighting, and generating PBR maps is huge. That's what's gonna give it that realism. It's gonna make it actually look like there's depth inside the cranium right here, um, and also that there's texture to the material. It's not gonna just look like a flat piece of paper, so huge. Always generate the PBR maps. And then this HD texture, I've been experimenting with that. It's pretty cool. I don't think it's super necessary. I think that's kinda why it's taken off by, default. It does add more weight and more takes more to run the model. So if we're thinking here in AR, usually don't need it, but if you really like the HD textures and whatnot, it doesn't hurt. There's a couple things around it. Some people, or sometimes I've found where it's good to make the highest quality thing first and then compress it later rather than to start now. But I'm just going to head and leave that off for now. And I believe it's already generating. And we're going to go click on that and hopefully it's done soon. But, yeah, so this one, because it was an illustration, it's not gonna look like a realistic skull. It's gonna look more of a cartoonized, illustrated look, and, excited for you to see what that looks like. And again, to this is to the credit to Meshy and how it does its texturing. Very, very cool. And, next week, I'm gonna go over how there's a lot of ways that we can enhance the texture and make it more customized. This is with the image generator itself and just making different ways that the skull can look. It's one of the quickest ways to just get a lot of different variations very quickly without having to do much. All right, so it's almost about done. Perfect. A little bit longer. As you can see, I I use Meshy a lot. And there really there should be no feeling weird about using Meshy. In the 3D world, we constantly are licensing 3D models all the time. So, allow yourself to enjoy it. It's a very useful tool. And check out that texturing. Holy cow. I mean, it looks really good in my opinion. You'd have to go really deep to see any imperfections, but even then, it's not that bad. And then you take this and you put it in augmented reality, people are more seeing the texturing, they're seeing that, and even those little subtle flaws that we saw in the mesh itself, they're all gone. You can't even see them. So that's the beauty of texturing correctly with or just texturing in a working with your model. And then also we have the 5K poly count, which is awesome. So at this point, I would say, a lot of people, they would want to say get a OBJ at this point. That's good, totally valid, but we're going to go for super simple in this tutorial. There's a couple extra steps with OBJs. We're going to do a GLB. So if we go ahead and download this model now with this texture, we're going to go, the format that we want to click on the drop down here is GLB. So we click on that, put it in your downloaded spot. I'm going to put this one in my desktop like the last one. So we'll save that there. And then now we're just going to hop over to Blender. In Blender here, I have a scene set up. I can go ahead and make a new one so everyone's starting with me. Don't save that one. Now we got the classic square. And we're going to go ahead and just delete everything. We just select it all by pressing A, and then we press X, and then we just, boom, delete everything. Now, if we look over here inside of our collection, everything's gone. We have an empty scene, and I like this because just allows us to breathe. We don't have to think about cameras, lights, or none of that stuff. We just got an empty space. And look, to do what I'm doing right now, where I'm like looking around, you just middle click, and you can kind of just go around in the middle like that. So easy peasy. Everything's deleted. You don't have to worry about anything. Now, the next thing you're going to do is go to where we saved that file. So I'm going to go over here to my desktop. And this is the Meshy item that we made, or the model, the GLB file. We're going to go ahead and just pull that in and drag that into Blender, just like that. And then this options or this menu is going to pop up. Just press import. Boom. And now we've put our Meshy object that we created in Meshy, and now we have it in Blender. Super simple, drag and drop, just right file choices and stuff like that. We can really cut down on the extra clicks and the extra things that you have to do. So at this stage, we have the skull, and if this mode that we're in right now, that we're viewing everything, this is called the viewport editor. And this is how we see our scene. This is how we mess with things, right? And if you look at the top left corner, we have this what's called object mode. And if you click that, you have object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode, vertex, all of those. What I'm going to tell you is we don't have to worry about none of that. All we have to worry about is object mode and edit mode. That's it. So most of this entire thing, I mean, this entire thing is going to be just based off of these two modes. If you look, there is a lot to go over in Blender. Modeling, scripting, we don't got to do that. We're just going to do edit mode and object mode. Perfect. So once we're here, we have like all to bring it in here. We just dragged and dropped it. And we just went over, all we did is go over that there's object mode and edit mode. Perfect. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on this, and that brings up this orange thing that if you see on the surrounding part, that means it's selected. And if you don't see that orange part, all you have to do is go over here and click this button. If you click this one right here, you see that? It's called Show Overlays. It shows not only that something's being selected, but it also shows you like the floor and all that kinds of stuff. So if you click on that and turn that off and toggle it on and off, that will, yeah, give you that. So now once this is selected, we're going to go ahead and do a command to duplicate it. And to duplicate this skull, we're just going to go and press Shift D, right? That's how you duplicate that. And so if you, and excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead and undo that. So you press Shift D, and now this is kind of like stuck to my mouse, if you notice. And I'm not, if you saw my hands, my other hand that pressed the key command is not doing anything. So right now this is stuck to the mouse until I click, right? Um, and, but if I click, it's going to be stuck there, and we don't want that. So if I press Shift D and I press Escape, it still makes that duplicate, but it makes it stuck in the original spot that it was duplicated, if that makes sense. I can slow that part down if anybody needs me to, but all we're really doing, just to simplify, is just duplicating it and making sure it stays in the same area. So to run that over one more time, we're going to go back. We have the original object here. If we press Shift plus D, and then we press Escape, it goes boom, shoots right back here. Now we got the two versions. Now I'm going to go ahead and just separate, name these two different things, because we're going to have the cranium and we're going to have the jaw. So I'm just going to go here and name this top part just skull for simplicity. And then we're going to have the jaw for the other one. And to rename these, all I'm doing is double clicking. So if you double click these objects, you'll get a chance to rename them to whatever you want. So I'm going to name this one again skull. So now we have a clear distinction between skull and jaw. And at this point, really all we got to do is delete one part and, and keep the other part of the other. So there's other ways to do this. I'm just kind of making it simple I think this is easier to understand when you're first getting into this stuff. There is a method where we could just go ahead and highlight a certain thing and then split it. But I think this is kind of easier at least it's easier for me to get it first. You guys tell me if this is unnecessary, but we'll go ahead and we're going to focus on the skull first, and we're going to go to the jaw, and we're actually going to mute him. You see these eyeballs right here? If I click that eyeball, I actually mute the other object, and I'll prove it to you because I'm going to click this one, boom. And look, because it's the same exact object in the same exact area, they kind of overlap. But either way, turn off the jaw and turn on the skull. And now we just have the skull. So if I select this whole thing, I'm not going to select the jaw and the skull. I'm just going to select that one object. Alrighty. If I go now, and this is another key command, if I press Tab while I have this selected, if I don't have it selected, it doesn't work as well. So you usually want to select the object that you want to go into edit mode, because that's what that means. Object mode, just to summarize, is the mode that allows you to interact with everything. So imagine you're like building a video game and you have buildings and roads and people and cars. If you go and drag select everything, you're gonna it's gonna grab everything. So we want to keep our things separated, and then also get really good at turning things on and off so that we know what we're working with. But anyways, also just to illustrate, edit mode is when, excuse me, this is the bigger point. Edit mode is when you are editing one object at a time. So go back to our streets and the city and everything. If I wanted just to manipulate the building, I'd have to click on that building and then press tab button. And now I'm in edit mode. In edit mode, I can, for instance, we're messing with this skull. I can edit these vertices, make them look weird, and do all kinds of stuff. This is how I would do that. And how I individually affect this one object. So again, it's, it could be confusing when there's only one object, but when you have 50,000 objects, thank goodness there's an edit mode where you can edit things one by one. So I hope that didn't confuse anyone. I try to bring clarity to that. But, yeah, so now that we'll step into edit mode, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off jaw again, go into skull, go press now that I have it selected, press tab, and now because we want this to just be the top part of the skull, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to this button right here. This button is called X-ray. And when you do that, essentially you're allowed to grab vertices that are behind others. So there's no vertice safe. If you don't have this turned on, if I, for instance, grab all these, it looks like I'm grabbing everything. If I turn around, oh, nope, I did not grab everything. I only grabbed everything that I could see in this view. But if you turn on X-ray mode, and I go and I grab it all. Boom, I'm grabbing everything. That the whole thing is grabbed. And that's really important because this is when now that I grab this whole jaw, we don't need a jaw for a skull. So I press now that it's all selected, I press the X button or the X key. And now it says, what do you want to delete? I'm just going to delete the vertices and boom. Now we just have the top part of the skull. Alrighty. And now if we press the tab button again, we got just the skull. We can toggle off the X-ray mode. It's kind of confusing. Boom. Now we just have the top part. Now we're going to do the same thing for the jaw. If we turn off the skull now and turn on the jaw, because we never removed the top part, it's going to be back to normal. But we're going to do the opposite now. We're going to select the jaw. I can click on him, press tab button. I'm going to go over to the X-ray mode, click that mode, and now I get a good angle probably around here. I'm just going to drag select this whole thing and boom. If you see, because we're in the X-ray mode, we can select everything. And I'm just going to go X, boom, and delete the vertices. X is like cuts things out. So now we have a separation between, oh, let me press tab. Now we're in object mode. I'm going to turn off the X-ray toggle again, and we are left with just our jaw. And if I turn on the skull now, boom, we have a clear separation between jaw and skull, which is a really cool and important feature because now that this jaw is loose, he's free. He's free from this other guy who was messing with him before. So this jaw now can talk. You can, hey, what's up, everyone? You have a lot more options having just these two things separate. And this is kind of one of the biggest things I wanted to illustrate here is that if you are in 3D and you're thinking in pieces like a puppet master with all these pieces of the puzzle, it becomes so much fun and much less intimidating because the biggest thing I always equated it to is because I like to do these arts and crafts with my wife and my mom, and we volunteer, but we like to do those little elf little sceneries where you're putting together little stone paths and everything. It's just like that. And once you get a sense of it and knowing how to just move things and grab them and stuff like that, um, it's very comfortable, and you just feel like you're making little elf places and homes. It's almost addicting sometimes. It's very fun when you get a hang of it. So now that we have these two things separated, I'm going to go and do a specific type of edit because the problem with 3D is that you have so many angles that you can move things. So, for instance, if I just grab this jaw here and I press the button G, like for girl or yeah, good, yeah, like what G is, it stands for grab, and you can move things around, right? But check this out. It looks like I'm moving it like this, and I might move it like that, right? But if I change angle, like the angle of what it looks like it's moving from, see, look, it's shifted. You know, it didn't look like I was shifting it that way. And that's why sometimes when we're editing things in 3D, it looks like, oh, that looks just right. And then we move in another angle. It's like, nope, it's not just right. It's all crooked and messed up. So let me undo everything I just did. So right on, here, it's, when the image is and everything right now, when it's at default, everything's perfectly aligned. We wanna keep that way, but as you notice, this jaw's a little too far down. So, a good way for you to know that you're doing things without screwing up its, position is these buttons right here. If you click, for instance, the Z, look, I get a top view. If I click Z again, now I get a bottom view. If I click X, I get the side view, and if I click X again because it's like the exact opposite side, boom, we get that side. And the same thing with Y, back and then front. The reason why this is so important is it's orthographic view. So it's giving you a flat, two-dimensional view of your 3D object. It's a very complex thing to think on, but it just makes things more accurate. So that if I press and I press G here now, and I move him around, I know he's not going to move. He's fixed on a certain way. For instance, this, I know he's always gonna be fixed that way. So he's never gonna be pushing back and forth. But I can get him side to side, but he'll never go back to forth. I don't wanna confuse too much, but either way, this is how you get accurate measurements. So let's go to the side view. Side view is this. And if we click this now, the jaw, and we press G, and we just line him up exactly where he's supposed to go, you can rest assured it's not gonna be messed up. Look, it's gonna look real nice and clean. It's n and it exactly where we're supposed to go, it's exactly where it lines up, and that's the power of lining it up with orthographic. It's just a lot more accurate measurements, if this simplified as much I can. So yeah, if everyone's good, just wanna check in with everyone, and then if I'm going at a good speed, okay, awesome, sick. Very cool. So, at this point, we kinda proved and shown and got this, working, and the jaw is separated from the cranium. We're in a really good spot here to start animating and doing really cool things. However, there's one big caveat. If we go to this jaw right here and we go to rotate him, because when you think about it, a jaw that's trying to move, yeah, you could have him G up and down. That's not very natural though, right? The most natural way is for a jaw to just rotate like that, you know? And so to rotate anything inside of Blender, you just you select it first, the object, and you press the R button, which stands for rotate. And look, oh, he's rotating more like a real mouth. Um, but if you notice, one, the rotation's a little off, and he's not even rotating straight. He's like rotating crooked off to the side right there. And that's because I forgot to tell Blender what angle or axis I wanna rotate it on. So, if I just press rotate, it's just gonna rotate based off of the angle I'm on. Not very useful. But if, for instance, if I see here, this is revealing, this line right there, that's my X. That's my X axis, and you can tell because it's even up here, the colors. That lets me know that's my X axis. This line is X. So, if I rotate, which with the R button, and I press X, check that out. It's perfectly rotating straight on that X axis. And see, I'll go again, rotate X, straight rotate. But this is perfect. This is cool. We solved one problem, but we introduced one more problem. And that one more problem is that the he kinda has an overbite, and his jaw's, like, kinda unhinged a bit, you know, he's like, "Ah," and it's a little it's the and that's what we have to look at is the pivot point of the jaw is not in the right area. By default, because of where it was placed or because it was connected to the the skull before, its origin point, and that's what I'm pointing to right here, let me put it on the side. It's this little orange, little dot. Let's see if we can get it. I'll turn off the skull so you can see it better. But here it is. Um, oh, where it is. There it is. See this little orange dot? This little orange dot is where everything is rotating from. So if I press R and rotate on X, see, it's rotating from that orange little dot spot. That's the little killer. And he's a little but we can make things a lot easier and actually choose where he is with a simple command. And this one saved my life. This is such a cool one. So if you click that jaw this time now and you press control period, look what happens. You get the ability to adjust where this point is. Let me just go over that one more time. Oop, get that off. So if you select it and you press control and period, it brings this up, and now if I press G at this point, I will move the origin point, and I can put it right here where I want it, just where the jaw is supposed to kinda pivot, you know? I'm not a anatomy guy, but I think jaws kinda pivot right there. So if we now to exit this and get into normal settings again, we just press control and period again, boom, and now it's gone. And now if we press R and X, like, we got our real better pivot point of where it should be actually rotating. So all of this is to set up for the fun, easy part. And so if we go back here now and we have that's rotating right, rotate on the X. Oop, put this here, rotate on X. Oh my gosh, not selecting. There it is. Rotate on X. Boom, much better. That looks like a real skull and someone being able to talk and all that stuff. So this is kind of what goes into what we would call rigging. This is not technically a rig, but it kind of technically is because this is something we've kind of rigged together, right, in order to give us the type of animations that we want. And there was a bit of rigging that went into it, not in the more advanced sense, but we had to put this together, right? So now we do, and we have this. This is where we get into animating, and animating is easy and fun. So I'm going to do that real quick. I know I only got a couple of minutes left. I want to save some room for questions and answers, but if you look real quick at my workflow, I want to show you how quickly this can happen. So if I just pull this up right here, this guy's been here this whole time if you haven't noticed, but he's more for animation. If I just put my mouse right in that in between part right there, I get the mouse to like change its you know, icon. And now I can actually pull this window up a bit. So now I have that pulled up. I'm going to click on this button right here, which is kind of like the record button. Anybody who does music and audio, this is like the record button. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna click the jaw and see how he's orange because I clicked on him. I'm gonna press I, and what that does is it means it's inputting a keyframe. So it's basically just taking note of where this jaw is and this time. All right. And if you notice, I did this on frame 1. I'm gonna do another thing real quick just to make things easier. See how there's on the top right here, there's the start and we have the end. I'm going to set the end because that's how many frames we're doing. I'm going to set the end of this animation to 200 to make the math a lot easier. Okay. Actually, even easier, let's do it to 100. I think that'll be the easiest math. So we're going to have just 100 frames in this whole animation. And we put a keyframe on the first frame on the jaw. And again, to just do that, all we have to do is click on the jaw and press I. And if you see here, all these actually turn yellow if you're in the transform area. That's because they have a keyframe in their area of where they're supposed to be. Okay, now, if you follow along really quickly and you just go to the end by pressing this button right here, it just jumps to the end point. I'm about to teach you, if you didn't know, my main background is music. So I'm really big on loops, and looping has always been a huge thing for me, and I kinda consider myself a looping expert at this point. So this is the tip of all tips for looping for anybody who wants to get into it. The beginning and end point must be the same. That's it. If you have the beginning and end point the same, you have a loop. Some loops are better than others, some are smoother than others, but it will be a perfect loop if your beginning and end point or beginning and end frame are the same thing. So I'll prove it to you. So remember this keyframe that we had here that we said, you're going to stay here and I'm going to make a note of it by pressing I. So now it's a keyframe in this position. I'm going to go to the end by pressing this button, jump to the end point, and then I'm going to just press the right key one time. That's going to bring me to 101. And there's a reason for that. I'll get into the weeds, but for right now, it's to make it a lot smoother. But either way, at this point, at frame 101, we're going to press I again. And so basically, I'm already programming it right off the bat that the beginning and end frame must and will be the same. We already did it. So at this point, because of that, I can go over to frame 50. And if I had a wild imagination and I wanted him to go over here and I wanted him to size up and I wanted him to rotate, do all kinds of things, I know he'll do that. But at the end of the loop, he'll eventually go back here and always loop perfectly. So let me go. If that was a little fast, I can do it again. But essentially, the key point is that the beginning frame and the end frame must match. Anything in between doesn't matter. You could do whatever you want. You could have it rotate on Z and spin around like a bazillion times. It's like because it'll always come back to that. They'll always have the same beginning and end point. So now, big explanation for that, but just to go to show now at this point, if we go to frame 50 and now we have it set up right and we rotate on the X axis this time, we'll do it big time. We'll give him big jaw. That he will eventually put his mouth back perfectly. And we got a talking skull. Woohoo! And anyone who's tried this before and especially tried to get it to loop, now these things they can be pretty tricky, but I like I said, try to get it to the bare minimum of just 1, 2, and 3. So now that we have this is it. This is our animation, and also forgot to mention that if we click on this rendering button right here, and we go to this second, option, we now have the texture. It's baked inside of the model, so don't worry, that didn't go anywhere, and that's another plus of working with the GLB. See, if you were working with an OBJ or another type of file, you'd have to worry about the separation of the texture and the 3D object. But with the GLB, it's all together. So that's why it's so easy. You could just drag and drop it right into here, and it has it baked into the actual um, model. So at this point, ooh, my computer's kind of going slow. It's weird. We can just select all of this. Oof, my computer's going slow. Let me go put it back to this setting just because, yeah, a lot faster. Okay, so now if we select everything at this point, we should only have a jaw and a skull. We are ready to export. This is the final moment. So right from here at this point, we go to File. We got to make sure everything is selected. You got to either drag select or you can press A. A means for all, like select all. So either one of those will work. So now when you select the jaw and the skull, you go to File and you go to Export, and then you're going to go all the way to where it says this GLTF 2.0.glb. This is what we want. So we click on that, and I'm going to go again to the desktop and put everything on the desktop. And we're going to put this as test skull. And then over here on the top, I always like to put remember export options or remember export. If we click on this, we can actually see what things are saying. This says remember export settings. And yeah, I always like that because if I go in again and I try to export it again, I don't have to set this ever again. Once it's set, it's done and it's remember the export settings and it'll always be that way. So the first thing, and I'll go through all the settings. The first one is to include, uh, I like to always limit it to selected objects because it's easy. Right now, you got to again think about if you had a whole city of all kinds of stuff. If I keep it to only selected objects, I know I can own. If I select certain things, those would be the only things that are exported. You don't have to worry about that here because there's only two things, but still, I think it's a good habit to get into it. Just selected objects. And then you can kind of go ahead, skip transform. Data is a little different because, especially, remember, we want to do optimization. And with these meshes, or excuse me, with the materials, they can take up a lot of room. So if you click on the drop down for material, you want to put that to, excuse me, the images. It says automatic. Put that to WebP. That's going to be give you really good bang for your buck. Bring down the size, and then see the image quality at 75. You put that sucker down to 25. No problem. No one's going to be able to tell. And then, I mean, they might if they're really like looking, but it's most people are not going to be able to tell. Um, and then you can go down here to compression. I would click that, and just the default settings are good. You don't really have to do much. The way they have it's pretty good. Um, and then if you go down, the last thing, this is very important, going to animation. If you go to this drop down in animation, I want to make sure definitely it's checked on. You see this part where it says animation mode. Click that drop down and definitely say active actions merged. This is important because sometimes you have multiple things going on all at the same time, and when it exports, it's saying each one of those individual things are their own animation, and so one has to play before another one plays, but if you want them all to play at the same time, you have to say active actions merged, and almost every time when I'm using a GLB for AR, all the animations are going on at the same time, so you wanna active actions merged. Then after that, you wanna bake all object animations, and now this is baking them all into the GLB file itself. So those are very 2 important things to put on, and then if you click on the rest and ranges, I would do definitely limit to playback range, and basically, remember when we put it to, the frame 1 to 100, we're just making sure that when it exports, it only does 100 frames like we set in the project file. And then here, this negative frames part, you could set it slides totally fine. So, but just really make sure you put it to limit to playback range. Um, and then after that, pretty much all the settings are good the way they are, and you can press export. And so if we look here, it's going to take a second. All right, didn't take too long at all. And something I wanted to highlight as well, because if we went to the original Meshy object, it's a picture of me and my son. And the original one is 12 megabytes, right? Now check this. If I go, I remember it's called test skull, right? If I go T for test skull, where is it? There it is. Okay, see this test skull? 520 kilobytes. 520 kilobytes. We went from 12 megabytes to 520 kilobytes. So not even that's like half a megabyte. So let's I have it set up for a tester right now so I could test the 3D object. Let's test it out. See if we lost any quality in our object. And if we let it load, we didn't lose a thing. Looks great. And that is the power of Draco compression, that compression that we put in. And then when we did that optimization for or the compression for the material, really cut down on the size. So now this is like little hair threads for illust to play. And then any phone will be able to play this like no business because of those optimization tricks we put in. Less half of a megabyte, went from 12 megabytes to half a megabyte. So that's, I'm big on optimization. That's another thing that I can talk about for ages. So let's go over now to illust, final part of this show, right? This is the exciting part. I'm gonna sign into mine. We'll create a new account, so or create a new, experience so that you can I'll lead you through the whole thing. Go here in the top right corner, create AR experience. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and drop down to the bottom here and press 3D object or model, upload from the desktop. And what was it called? Test skull. There it is. Click that. And look how fast it uploads too. Bing, immediately. And if you could tell, there's a couple things. Like for instance, this is the playing field and the level. So the shadow stops right there. That's something we'll have to fix. And then on top of that, it's a little bright in here. And that's because illust by default comes with a light that's on. So we'll be turning that off and then adjusting the shadow. And this guy's ready to go. So let's go ahead and do that. Before I do, I'm gonna name him Skull Test. The author is me, and we're going to generate that slug after we save it. There it is. Okay, and then now I just go over probably the biggest thing I do first, go over to lighting. I just usually turn the lighting off for at least for this situation. We'll go ahead and reload so you can see what's going on better here. I already know the settings that I want, but it's probably helpful for you to see what the what it does. So as you see, when we turned off the light, it got some of that brightness gone. That's good. So yeah, we'll turn that lighting. There it is. So now we see a little bit more like that. I also will take off the the HDR environment map, because now, instead of it being an HDR environment map that is kind of virtual or artificial from illust, we're going to be using the real HDR, from the real-time environment of where you are. So the lighting of the environment will affect your model. I always like that. That's a very fun thing to do. And then I'm gonna put the opacity of the shadow to about point 0.3. Okay, and so that just makes it's still there, but just, like, not as strong. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is go world tracking, and this is it. We go allow global experience, and then I'll put the position a little bit higher on the Y, so I'll put it probably about, let's see here, 5. And then we wanna push back so that it's not so close to our face, and so I'll put that at about a negative, let's see, -4, and let's see, where does that end up? There we go. So we have it kind of, if you were right here in the center, now it's a little bit higher and, pushed away from you a bit. And then I'll just put the scale double of everything because it's kind of small. So 2, 2, and 2. And now, bada bing, he's right there, staring at you as soon as you're ready to activate the AR. And if we just press save, or it's already saved, we can go into simple AR preview, and you guys are definitely free to preview it on your side to see how it comes out. But there we go. We just made an entire AR activation live for you right here, generated it, animated it, rigged it, and to kind of show that 3D is totally approachable. It's like, it's just knowing couple of things and rethinking the way it's approached, man, I know it saved me a lot of trouble. It made me think of it and enjoy the process so much more. So, yeah. Hope you guys got that one, enjoyed it, and definitely open for any questions or anything you guys might have. Ooh.
Dude, that was awesome.
Hey, awesome.
Yeah, that was great. I got my skull over here rendered
Nice.
and so dude, thank you so much for going through that. I feel like you really made Blender even simpler.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
so yeah, no, for sure. And I think the settings are always the part that kind of is where unless you like kind of have those already pre-configured is where you can kind of get lost. So I think that was a
Right.
good explanation. But I want to open it up. Is there anyone that has any questions for Out of Body or thoughts or uh, yeah, love to hear what y'all thought about it.
I think he explained it so well. Thank you very much. I learned a
Oh,
lot again.
awesome.
But I was
Perfect.
happy I already know a little bit about Blender, but it really helps me. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. So glad to hear. Hey.
Yeah.
That's
Very cool.
awesome.
Yeah, no, and it's there's something I was talking to Rob about as well is that, as we do the next episodes, that going to kind of build off of what we're doing here so we can get a little bit deeper into the weeds. But each thing that, they kind of like for instance, I couldn't fit it all into this one, but in the next week we're going to do textures, making the skull your own, and all of these things apply to any object. So, the idea is to kind of build off of that, go really deeper in, but the whole time it's never too much. And so I really appreciate that you enjoy that. Next week we're going to go into a lot more of the details and stuff like that. So I'm excited for you guys to see that.
Nice one. Karan, I think I thought I heard you for a second.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Mhm.
Awesome. Yo, out of body. Excellent.
Awesome.
Essentially like tutorial, I was really kind of backing away from using AI to build my 3D models.
Mhm.
And so to go from, this path of image generation to 3D to, in this AR experience, really appreciated that workflow and seeing how you do it.
Mhm.
In addition, the kind of locking the axes on a model, the keyframes. Like I've played a lot in Premiere and After Effects, so like to kind of revisit keyframes here. I didn't really know how to use it in Blender until today. So you
Oh,
really made
awesome.
that concept a lot smoother and a lot easier to understand for me.
Let's go.
And then the manipulation of the 3D models as well, man. You really did a great job of really just simplifying it for this experience. So thanks for just being here and sharing this with us. I'll definitely be in the future courses you'll be holding, because man, this is gonna make me that much better with
Awesome.
creating these AR experiences. So thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate your expertise and just
Mhm.
really simplifying the delivery of this. My other question I had was for the export. I had missed a couple of the things you checked off on. Is there a
Okay.
way you could share like an export profile with us that we could kind of just use
Yeah.
in Blender? It'll simplify that kind of AR ready export, because that compression is going to be paramount when it comes to
Right.
getting and having a lot more animation. So I want to be able to really ensure that I do have those settings
Mhm.
kind of ready to go, and I can just kick things out and test over here.
Oh, absolutely. There's one video that I made that, you can see, already,
Hmm.
like, what I go through, but something that I was talking to Rob about was creating kind of like a care package to go along with a couple of these videos or all of them, and,
Yeah,
that's something that we could definitely have in there. It's just a project file that already has all the export settings ready to go. So if you wanted even, you could just drag and drop your project into there, and you'll know that it'll always export with those compression,
right. Yeah,
settings.
that'd be
Mhm.
golden, man. That'd be
Hell
golden.
yeah.
That would be a shortcut if there ever was one.
Absolutely, of course. No, I'm so glad. That's great news. And, yeah, and freaking, yeah, no, the next week and also just to excuse me. Kinda go off of, going into next week's and also what you said about going and using Meshy and thinking a bit differently. I have a really cool one that I think you're gonna really like, coming up, and not next one, but the one after that, of how, I'm gonna be building a new object with a bunch of different Meshy objects, and to show how, easy it can be to create a kind of a Frankenstein, uh, a model off of things
Hmm.
that you make with Meshy, and it is so cool. You won't
Yeah,
I think you'll
that
really enjoy that.
composite. Yeah, that
Right,
composite
right.
material is gonna be sick, bro.
Mhm.
That's gonna be dope. I'm looking forward to that, man.
Awesome.
Well, dude,
Yeah, again, thanks
appreciate
again,
your
man. Thanks,
time.
man.
Thanks,
Mhm.
Karan. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, spend any thoughts, comments? Sorry, thumbs are up. Cool. Well, yeah, dude, thank you so much for your time. And
Of course.
yeah, next week we'll have. What'd you all think of school? Like the school chat format? Was that no real difference between Google Meets or school? Pretty cool. Any any opinions or feel strong feelings against it?
Nothing
No.
against it over here.
Cool.
It might have just been me moving windows around, but at sometimes it was kind of hard to read the text when you went to like your share screen
Mhm.
during the export side of the process. But other
Mm,
than that, man, 1 to 1 in every other aspect from my experience.
cool. Okay. Nice. So next week I'll also set up so that it's the invites in Calendly so that people get notifications before it starts. Because I know that that is something that I got some side text messages about. But yeah, well, that concludes this first workshop. Out of body again. Kudos to you, brother. Thank you so much for the
Of
time and the
course.
energy you put into this. It really shows. And looking forward to seeing you all again next week.
Awesome.
So,
Have a good
cheers,
one.
y'all.
Appreciate it, guys.
Have a
Thanks
Y'all
good
take
again.
one.
care.
Thank
See you
you.
next week. Happy holiday.
Bye.
Bye.
And happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
Yeah.
Boom,